Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. And we are delighted to welcome you all to this webinar on MSME matters, where we'll navigate challenges and opportunities for MSMEs on their path to decarbonization. I am Vrinda and I lead the energy transitions work at Vasudha Foundation. Just some housekeeping rules for the next 90 minutes. Please mute your microphones at all times during the webinar. Use the chat function if you would like us to ask a question. We can pick that question in the end during the Q&A round. We would request all speakers to stick to their time limit for ensuring a good discussion. Before now I move into the discussion on this, I would like to invite my CEO, Srinivas Krishnaswamy, for his introductory remarks. Srini, over to you. You're on mute.
Thank you, Vrinda, and a very, very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, on behalf of Vasudha Foundation, a very, very warm welcome to all of you to join us for today's webinar, which is on MSME and broadly making the link between MSME and just transition, or a people-centric transition, so to speak. This webinar is part of a series of webinars that we are organizing on the whole topic of, on the whole theme of just transition. But this primarily stems from the fact that, given that India has ambitious targets, including a net zero by 2070, but the number of ambitious plans, including the 2030 NDC and going forward, the forthcoming NDC is beyond the 2030 period, where India will be coming up with pathways in order to meet its 2070 net zero goals. How do we make the transition as people-centric as possible? As everybody says, it can't just be a technology shift. Technological shifts will happen with advancements of technology, but then how do you make it people-centric? How do you ensure that no one is left behind in the transition journey? And this today's webinar, which is on the whole issue of MSME, it's about MSME will play a very major role in any sort of energy transition, given the kind of role it plays as a backbone in our industries and allied sectors. So given that, and if you are advancing to a clean energy technology, while the large industries would have the wherewithal and the capacity to make the shift rapidly and perhaps even ensure that its employees and associates are protected sufficiently, perhaps. It would be the MSMEs that would require the kind of support given the current situation they are, given the fact that many of them may not have the kind of the wealth of information, or for the matter even the kind of capital or the cost or the working capital required to ensure that the transition is people-centric, and to ensure that its workers are also protected while the MSME transitions to a low carbon pathway. And again, transition to a low carbon pathway, notwithstanding the fact that even bringing safeguards for employees is important, but even the MSME, even the small and micro enterprises shifting to newer technologies could be a challenge due to the high cost of technology and of course the kind of capital that is required. So we as Vasudha Foundation are working with multiple agencies, both at the national level as well as at the state level. At the national level, we are working with, we are associated with NITI Aayog in developing net zero pathways, and also importantly to bring together data and information at the granular level, both historic and real-time data, to ensure that there is a robust pathways developed which is data backed. And data is a primary, all of us know that data is primary requirement for any robust planning or robust net zero roadmap making. At the state level, we work with multiple states. Some of the states that we are actively engaged in include Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, to name a few. And a lot of these states, one of the key aspects that we realize is that MSMEs play a very, very major role. And in all of these states, in our development of a net zero pathway or a roadmap, we realize that unless you have something which is tailor-made for the MSME, coming up with any pathways or the implementation of the pathways is going to be a challenge. And this backdrop of this, this webinar aims to dwell deep into what needs to be done, to ensure that MSMEs are also brought into the mainstream of energy transition. The kind of support the kind of issue that MSMEs could face in the energy transition, kind of support that MSMEs would require going forward and ensuring that they are not left behind in the transition journey. We are extremely grateful to have a wonderful set of panelists who are joining us today. And a very, very warm welcome to each one of you, one of the panelists, and also all the participants. The panelists that we have today are Sabjot Singh Saini, who is from UNDP. He's a mitigation specialist from UNDP. We have Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who is the Deputy General Manager from SIDBI. We have Mr. Tushar Cherian, who is a Senior Vice President, Debt and Treasury from Kinara Capital. We have Mr. Mukesh Mathur, Scientist F, Technology Information and Assessment Council, TIFAC. We have Ms. Swapna Patil, who is from the SME Climate Hub India Manager of the WeMean Business Coalition. Without further ado, again, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. And I would also like to wish all of us the very best for the deliberations. Given the kind of speakers, I'm sure we will have great insights coming from each one of them on various aspects of what needs to be done to ensure that MSMEs are part of the mainstream of energy transition. In terms of the broad agenda for this meeting, we would like to keep this as interactive as possible. So we'll have my colleague Srinivas who will set the context, and then the panel discussion moderated by my colleague Vrinda, and then we will also try during the panel discussion to have enough time for Q&A, to ensure that there is perspectives also coming from the participants. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and a warm welcome on behalf of the entire team of Vasudha Foundation, Vrinda, Srinivas, and team, to all of you to join us in this webinar. Over to you, Vrinda.
Thank you, Srini, for your power-packed remarks. So as we delve into this critical topic on building a clean and resilient MSME sector that prioritizes its impacts on businesses and workers and communities, I would like to welcome my colleague Srinivas Ethiraj to give us a quick setting the context presentations for everybody. Srinivas, let's try to keep it short and quick so that we can get into the panel discussion.
Yeah, I request the host to kindly allow me to share my screen. Yeah. Screens. Vrinda, are we able to see my screen? Great. Thank you.
Can you zoom in a little bit? The numbers are not clear.
Okay. Still not clear? Great. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Srinivas, and I manage the energy transition work at Vasudha Foundation. And on behalf of Vasudha Foundation, I'll be setting the context for today's moderated discussion. So the crux of today's discussion hinges on advancing both scientific as well as social goals, which concurrently, while transitioning the India's growth engine, supposedly the MSMEs, both on the business front as well as on the workforce front. So the next couple of slides would actually take us through the sheer size and scale of the challenges that are ahead while we are trying to attempt this transition. So starting with the industry-related CO2 emissions, year on year, we are seeing it rising. And in the previous year, it peaked at 37.4 billion tons, with industrial sector becoming the fastest growing sector, which comprises both the large and the small industries. So looking closer at the industries, studies suggest that 80% of the global industrial emissions are derived from their respective supply chains, which are largely composed of the MSMEs. MSMEs mostly manufacturing in comparison to large industries. They may be smaller in size in terms of the production and emission intensity, but collectively represent 25% of the total energy consumed by the industrial sector in India. Again, what MSMEs benefit from this transition? We know that their day-to-day business is vulnerable to rising energy prices and growing sustainability standards. So, and energy cost is actually an important cost component for any manufacturing MSME, and it typically ranges between 15 to 25% of their total production costs, depending on what industry they belong. So while building a case for transitioning MSMEs, we shouldn't turn our eyes blind to the growing trade-linked environmental policies, both domestic as well as cross-border, that are intended to protect the environment, address carbon leakages, etc., as they can affect both the export capabilities of both large as well as these MSME counterparts, especially when right now, geopolitically, India has a competitive advantage of exporting low-skilled manufacturing products. MSMEs also, because of the collective emission intensity, can be critical drivers towards achieving the twin goals of both, as Sir rightly pointed out, the carbon neutrality of 2070 and Viksit Bharat agenda of 2047. Studies across the globe suggest that climate action is and would become a source of competitive advantage, even for micro businesses, over their peers in a future that is actually carbon constrained. Hence, with transition in place, there is a clear-cut opportunity for business growth for these MSMEs, in addition to generating employment and improving livelihoods. When we look into, so looking at the case for MSMEs within India, like just bringing out the statistics. So as of 2022, we are home to around 65 million units, employing approximately 110 million workers, and over 63 million units of these MSMEs employing less than 20 workers per unit. So out of this, 27.41%, that corresponds to roughly 18 million units, are engaged in manufacturing. And this is as per the annual survey of unincorporated sector enterprises 2022-23. And in India, only 16% of MSMEs are financed through formal banking systems. Speaking of finance, because access to finance is a major critical barrier, and the credit gap to MSMEs is estimated to be around 25 trillion Indian rupees, and this is only expected to grow in the coming years. And again, on the workforce front, the majority of MSMEs operate informally and are outside of the formal system of employment, that is outside the purview of the Provident Fund system. Again, now that we have looked at a snapshot of the MSME landscape in India and the scope that exists for business growth and transition, what then actually inhibits these micro enterprises from transitioning? So I've listed some of the reasons for us to go through. So most of these emission intensive units are those that use first era technologies or processes that with high thermal energy requirements and heavy reliance on fossil fuels. And as again, our CEO rightly pointed out, when meeting working capital requirement is a challenge by itself for MSMEs, it is hard to expect them to be motivated to pursue decarbonization, especially when there is a lack of climate awareness. So while improving process efficiency may not be a priority for micro businesses, again, OEMs that manufacture low emission technologies, that come up with low emission technologies, on the other hand, they do not have consider MSME as a potential customer due to their smaller business ticket size. This, in addition to limited market access, low negotiation ability, lack of skilled workforce, and other barriers, make these make the transaction cost for MSMEs a little bit higher, and the transition is challenging. Again, from among the manufacturing MSMEs, I've circled the 5 most energy-intensive MSME units in India as per a 2022 study, which are basic metals, other non-metallic minerals, including glass, refractory, clay, lime, plaster, cement, ceramics, and chemicals and paper and textiles. So while this may be from the energy and emissions perspective, mostly the business, it's also essential for us to look over the from the workforce perspective as to what climate vulnerability actually means for MSME and how it translates. So again, let's look at what approach we can adopt to advance social goals during transition. During our preliminary analysis, we were able to map the vulnerability layers with an energy and emission intensive MSME unit. And the deeper we go into these concentric circles, the more vulnerable the segment is. While layer 1, for example, the outermost layer describes the entire pool of emission intensive MSMEs, layer 2 can be those that operate in an informal and unorganized setup, and layer 3 can be those that are resource constrained, possess other market barriers like low business value addition or productivity. And layer 4 actually describes the nature of the ownership, like what social and demography that they hold, basically led by women or the employees who possess unskilled labor or labor from low income groups. And the 2 pie charts that on the right side describe the social and demographic composition of MSMEs, which again shows the gender and social disparity in terms of MSME ownerships in India in 2024, as of 2024. Sorry. On the workforce front, again, as I said, lack of social security and decent work in line with the decent work agenda of ILO can exacerbate their vulnerabilities. So an ideal transition actually should therefore not leave anyone behind, as CEO rightly pointed out, and it is an opportunity for growth rather than being a disruptor. With that, I pause here and I hand it over to my colleague Brinda to take over the moderated discussions that is to follow. I thank everyone for patiently listening, and I thank Vasudha Foundation for this opportunity to present. Over to you, Brinda.
Thank you, Srinivas, for this informed presentation. So let's see what we know. That as the strongest drivers of economic development, innovation, and employment, MSMEs in emerging markets like India will play definitely an important role in catalyzing the country's green growth. But due to the sheer nature of how they operate, disaggregated, informal, and small, they will be highly vulnerable to both climate risks as well as energy transition risks. Hence, there is a need to really do a very informed transitional planning so that we don't get into many adverse impacts which would lead to drastic skill shifts, migration, displacement, loss of work, etc. And we have to ensure that the transition is meaningfully and positively impacting businesses and workforce. We already see some of the transition-related challenges in sectors like automobiles, textiles, brick kilns, where some of these impacts are quite surfacing. Based on this, I would say that it's very important to also see that different MSMEs will be impacted based on 4 key aspects, where we see geographies as one, whether they are in climate vulnerable areas and are impacted by floods, heats, drought or not. Second, the sectors in which they operate, whether they're operating in highly energy intensive sectors or not. Second, what is the size of the MSMEs? I think we'll have some panelists talk about that, how micro enterprises have a different set of issues in it altogether. And then the socio-economic demography of the workforce. So whether they are informal in nature, whether they are lowly skilled or highly skilled, etc. So with this background, I invite the stellar panel, which will help us shed light on 3 key objectives. That is, what would a clean energy transition mean for MSME workers and small businesses? We will do some exchange of knowledge and experience sharing on challenges and opportunities of greening MSMEs. And finally, looking at the innovations and strategies that can accelerate this transition. I welcome my first panelist here, Mr. Sarabjot Singh Saini. Hi, Sarabjot. So, we know that UNDP has done a lot of programs and have been doing some programs with MSME, with the recent one where you engaged with on capacity building of subnational policymakers on just transition of MSMEs. Can you tell us uh, can you tell us some more things about the evolving business landscape of these MSMEs in the light of this climate commitments and sustainability concerns? And what do you think are the key barriers if we see when we are transitioning or looking at decarbonization of these MSMEs?
Right. Thank you, Brinda, and good afternoon, all of you, and a very warm good afternoon to participants as well. My name is Sarabjot Singh, as you know, already introduced by Vasudha Foundation, Ms. Brinda there. So, primarily, like already Brinda provided an overview that UNDP is working with MSMEs, and particularly if I want to touch upon the specific sectors where we worked at, steel sector is one of the key sectors where UNDP worked, and we have 3 phases of the project with steel sector. And if you talk about the challenges on the MSME sectors, I would say that the key challenge, or the first I can say the primary challenge is of course the awareness with the MSMEs, because they primarily are one-man army there. Especially if we talk about the micro enterprises, they don't have that much of capacity to implement some of the technologies, or take care of the social well-being of their workforce. So that is also one of the key challenge. And I think second most key challenge, if we, let's say, focus on the decarbonization aspect, let's say the energy efficiency technologies implementation in the SMEs. So therein, I think they need a bit support from the implementer, as well as from overall the ecosystem that is present around them. Not just the ecosystem which is present at the the national level, but primarily the ecosystem which is at their sub-regional level. That is, the small DIC offices, MSME DI is there, the labs there, the R&D institute, and also the financial institutes there, the banks, the regional banks. And also the key aspect, if we talk about more on our technical terms on the implementation side, is support from the local service providers, the vendors who supply technologies, the vendors who, make them aware of the new technologies, new innovations to implement. So overall, I think the key barriers, if we talk about, is, of course, the awareness, and also the lack of support, ecosystem player support to MSMEs. But I think the implementation part, if we talk about more on a technical side, most of in my past experience of 7-8 years, I see that these small entrepreneurs, they are very well kind of know which technology suit their plant, but they need that kind of hand holding to implement the measures, to implement the technologies to decarbonize. I think this is the overall aspect, and we need to focus on the ecosystem approach when we talk about the MSMEs.
Great. Can you spend a minute to just talk about this recent program where there was a capacity building for some of these policymakers on just transition of MSMEs? This is between it's inter-country between 2 countries, right? Do you have any learnings from there?
The capacity building program on just transition is not, the one which UNDP did is not on the MSME side, but it's more on the, state level. I think we discussed that in Jharkhand state, we have the Just Energy Transition Task Force. So therein we had that workshop, but it is not focused on the MSME side. But we did try it in our MSME program, where we, successfully implemented energy efficient technology in 124 units to capacitate the unit owners there, and not just the unit owners, but the shop floor workers, to make them aware of the benefits of these technologies, and how implementation of these technologies, which can, improve their overall working environment as well. So this, a small intervention we did during our this 1-year project with steel units, basically in floor clusters.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sarabjot. I think I understand that, information asymmetry between a lot of these practices on energy efficiency and what is the technical know-how is considered as a key barrier. And we'll come on, as a second part when we do the second round on this to take forward that how do we address that information asymmetry. Next, I move on to my another panelist, which is, Dr. Rajendra Prasad from SIDBI. And Sir, I would like to, talk about here that in India, green financing has definitely been taking a prominent tool for, solving and meeting some of our net zero goals. However, whenever we talk about these MSMEs, one of the barriers due to their sheer structure and lack of collateral and skills, etc., that we see is their access to low cost finance, which is regularly cited in all the discussions that we do. How is SIDBI, try to address this gap, particularly in their programs and products that they offer?
Yeah. So thanks, Vrindaji. We are into this segment of financing for almost 2 decades. Actually, the year 2002 or 2005 was the one when we first started our uh, financing related with sustainability and greening the ecosystem. But during major portion of this 2 decades, this was a minor activity as far as SIDBI is concerned. Last about 3 years, we have shifted our gears, and last 3 years, uh, we have done substantially in the sector as far as financing is concerned. So before going into those details, I would like to emphasize 2 3 things related, which you can call the important facts about the MSME ecosystem. There are some 6.3 crore enterprises in India, and these are micro, small, medium, and large. Uh, Unfortunately, out of this huge number, only about 5 to 7% of the enterprises they are formal. The rest of the enterprises they are in informal sector, and therefore, because they are in informal sector, they have most of the problems associated with financing, uh, marketing, product standardization, and all those things. This is one part of the story. And secondly, then coming to the to cluster level, there are some 6,000 clusters, of which some 400 clusters are energy intensive clusters. And when SIDBI plans our strategy, we have these 400 clusters primarily into our mind. And to deal with these 400 clusters, we have adopted 2 3 kind of strategies. One is uh, enterprise level. For enterprise level interventions, what we have done, we have created certain facilities, and secondly, certain facilities we have created at the cluster level. So now the question arises how my portfolio constitutes. Currently, out of my some 25,000 crore of MSME core MSME portfolio, which we have lent through direct financing, nearly 40% of it is green, which means in excess of around 10,000 crore. And this portfolio we have created in past about 2 years. Uh, when I talk about this particular portfolio, the strategy which we have adopted is uh, certain of the loans they are green tagged. When I am saying green tagged, that simply means that at a certain cutoff date, there were certain investments which were energy efficient, which were pro climate. Those loans are tagged as green tagged loans. Then there are green loans. Green loans, when we say green loans, this essentially means that currently there are certain requirements. For instance, ENS compliance. We do not talk in terms of ESG, but ENS, because governance part is not important as far as MSMEs are concerned. And this idea has also been accepted by international bodies. Sorry. So there was some disruption. I hope I'm
Yes,
audible.
yes.
So the green loans. Then there is green MSME. Green MSMEs are primarily those MSMEs who are now ready to be classified as green at enterprise level. So their particular loan is not classified as green. Entire enterprise is classified as green. And the fourth stage of our strategy is green clusters. So we are focusing on certain clusters which we feel out of these 400 clusters, where we feel that we can intervene and we can transform these clusters into green by financing, by handholding and all. So to meet these four broad objectives, we have devised 5 missions through which we work. And these missions are called energy efficiency is one, wherein we are financing to equipments only, which are energy efficient equipments. Then there are renewable energy projects where solar, wind, and other renewable energy projects, they are financed. Then we are focusing on e-mobility, and under e-mobility, of course, the initial focus was two-wheelers and three-wheelers. Now we have also moved to four-wheelers. And very recently, we have also moved into trucks and bus financing. Then there is circular economy. Circular economy, we have devised a scheme with Government of India, Ministry of MSME, wherein incentives are provided to all those enterprises which are investing into circular solutions. And last but not the least, the fifth mission which we have is nature-based solutions, wherein we are encouraging adaptation-related projects, and what all are coming to us, we are trying to provide solution to them. As regards capacity building, I am jumping to the conclusion that yours would be this would be your next question. So as regards capacity building, we are while we largely organize programs for entire value chain, wherein we are helping banks, NBFCs, other lending institutions, uh, uh, machinery suppliers and enterprises, industry associations. We organize programs for them, and we try to tell them about the in things which are there in energy finance. Uh, Thanks for the moment. I'll have to take a call, and I'll get back to you. Please allow me.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah,
ready, sir?
yeah. Thanks. That's it from my.
No, I think great. We really appreciate how, this tiered approach of green tapping loans, enterprises, and clusters is being undertaken. And I think everything that boils down to that how we can scale that up, because the size of the intervention is so huge that we need to ensure that it needs to scale up at that level also. But at the same time, I had a follow-on question, sir, if you can answer. Otherwise, I can take it in the second round as well.
No, it's okay. Please.
We also, so there is this huge, so many products and so many programs being defined for various sectors and technologies, etc. But we would also like to know that we also see that there is a lack of motivation of these MSME units to decarbonize. How do you think that we can tackle this issue? Like there is greater uptake of some of these schemes.
Right. So this is one of the biggest challenges which we have been facing in most of the clusters where we are working. For instance, two, three of our recent initiatives in Brass cluster of Muradabad, then Jagri cluster of Muzaffarnagar, and another Brass cluster we are targeting soon will be going there. The difficulty with most of these enterprises is that they are not aware about the climate related concerns. One. And so how we have tried to crack the code. What we have tried to tell these people that, say for instance, in case of Muradabad brass cluster has the problem of pollution, and most of the people who were running these businesses or who are running these businesses, they have lung related issues. So health problems are there. One is environmental impact, and other one is health impact to almost every member of the family. So the health thing is a softer chord to say here. So what we have tried to educate them that while it is important for you to contribute to your health first, thereafter these interventions which we are, or the solutions which we have suggested them, we have tried to emphasize that they are not only environment friendly, at the same time they are cheaper, and they ensure you a sustainable future. So this is one particular cluster where we adopted this strategy. Same strategy we have adopted in Jagri cluster. Jagri cluster, we are trying to tell the people that the bhattis or the ovens which they are using currently, uh, they are negative pollution and negative climate activities. Therefore, they need to work on them. So these two clusters, this example I wanted to share that more than economic part of it, more than climate part of it, I think health has been one of the buying points. And these most of these enterprises, they have agreed to switch to electric based or gas based furnaces.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm sure while health is an important driver, maybe energy costs for some of the emission intensive units will also be an important driver. I think it's important that, the way that you are talking about, right, education and awareness about this is something that is important. Thank you, Dr. Prasad. Now I'll get into a very interesting panelist, Mr. Tushar, who is the Senior Vice President with Kinara, which is a fintech NBFC providing fast and flexible collateral business loans in India. So Tushar, when we look at clean energy technologies, and we know that some of them are very capital intensive, and that is why the take up by some of these MSMEs has been low. Further, these are small ticket investments and their high transaction costs make it difficult for the financial institutions to service their loans, even if they, have all the ecosystem available. We recently, came across Kinara's business model, and we would love to know from you that how different is Kinara Capital model, where they're resolving access to green finance for small businesses.
So, thanks, and good afternoon to all the panelists. The problem of so Kinara Capital effectively is primarily focused on micro SME segment, and the issue of green finance is just a subset of the issue of finance itself to micro SME borrowers. And the main issues that micro SME segment faces, can broadly be sort of broken up into an access, availability, and cost of capital kind of large parameters. Number one, you need to have an institution that is close to the customer and is able to access at the last mile through its feet on street and its branches. These kind of customers that traditional lenders are not able to sort of access itself. The second thing is to ensure an availability of finance. Like, for example, if there is a micro SME kind of a borrower, would the capital be available to this borrower? Does a standard underwriting procedure enable a sanction of a loan to such a customer, because they're not really formalized? And the third one is the sort of cost of capital. At that rate, what you underwrite and then are willing to give, is that palatable to that particular customer? So we have been around for around 13 years. We've sort of, we have an AUM of around 3,200 odd crores, primarily made up of unsecured loans to the micro SME customers. So one of the things that stops access to financing as such is an inability of these customers to provide collateral. And that will be the same issue that when this sort of customer goes to get green finance, a traditional lender would ask for some sort of collateral, property, gold, what have you. And these people will not have that. So to be able to assess them, without this collateral, just on the strengths of the businesses that they run, and these are small businesses, so to have the tools to be able to underwrite those revenues and to be able to size up the debt, to those customers. And the second is effectively the time that it takes. Now, generally, what you would see is, and again, it's a question that should be asked. We should look at green finance both in terms of capex and opex, and all financing in terms of capex and opex. And in this particular case, if in a traditional lending ecosystem, it will take a long time for a borrower to obtain a loan from a larger financial institution. And one of the things that we have been able to sort of achieve with respect to our business model is just the sheer turnaround time, wherein if the customer has basic parameters of financing, banking, KYC ready, then we are able to provide a loan between 24 to 48 hours. So primarily, I think one of the reasons how we are able to, or we are wanting to increase access to green finance for micro SMEs is just by effectively underwriting this category in a way that helps more of these businesses get underwritten, and in a time that allows that capital to come in at a time when they need it the most. So yeah, that's basically the innovation that we want.
Glad to know. I think the financial inclusion aspect that some of the companies like yours bring in is very important, where every entrepreneur gets equal access to capital when you're talking about this. Could you also, Tushar, briefly describe the impact of your work that has been, especially for these businesses and their workforce? And we also found that there is some enterprises that you're supporting which are women-led. So do you see, what is the kind of impact in terms of growth, in terms of employability, that if you have been able to see that, and if you can really attribute that success to the work that you have been doing?
Sure. So just by its very nature, any financing that we provide creates impact because it's collateral free to an entity that is otherwise at the mercy of an unorganized lending ecosystem. So effectively, just by providing a regulated product which has a clear terms in terms of clear interest rates, clear repayment schedules, good lending practices in terms of having a sort of charter in terms of the way you will collect, the way you will contact the customer, that itself has a salutary impact in the ecosystem, because like you said, someone said earlier, only 5 to 7 or 10% of the credit needs of the segment are met, and then they have to deal with a more unsavory sort of source of capital. So in terms of just a few numbers, we operate in an unsecured average ticket size of around 6 to 7 lakhs, and we have provided around 1.3 odd lakh loans. The total number of customers that we have provided loans to are around 87,000 odd customer. As we speak today, we have close to 35,000 active customers. And from a long time, because a lot of our lender base is also and equity owner base is also impact investor driven, we've been measuring impact for a long time in terms of like the number of jobs that you have created, the increase in the revenue post our loan that has been given, the amount of gender specific information in terms of like how many women in the workforce are there in the entity, and other stuff like that. Now that is effectively impact at the ground. Now we've also innovated in terms of, like you mentioned, a product called Her Vikas, and we were one of the pioneers in gender lens loan products, wherein if the entrepreneur is a woman and is established as the primary business person and not just a proxy, and that's a significant check, then we across our products, it could be an unsecured loan, it could be an asset purchase loan, it could be a short-term loan, there would be a subvention of around 1% in the cost. And like any new product, this also took time to sort of scale up. But I'm happy to say that we have given close to 700 odd crores of such loans, and currently we have outstanding loans in this particular product called Her Vikas of close to around 450 odd crores, and we are easily able to disburse close to 10 to 12, 10 to 15% of our monthly disbursements in this product. Similar is our ambition in green and wash finance. This is something also that we have got into just last year. And just in a matter of months, we are already in green financing close to $1 million a month in terms of opportunities. And this is taking into account time taken for training to understand what is eligible green finance, etc. And our plan is to grow this multiple folds, both in green and wash, and make it another pillar of our product, like how our Vikas is.
Thank you, Tushar. This was extremely helpful to understand that how we are looking at gender-specific loan products, I think, and the kind of this will definitely look at bringing more women into the energy transition discussions, and how we see some of an interplay with some of the green finance products that you are bringing in. We'll wait to look forward of some of those impacts that can be created more on ground. Next, I would like to bring in my fourth panelist, Mr. Mukesh Kumar, who's the scientist F with TIFAC. So, Mr. Kumar, I think we have had some level of discussions on how we decrease the cost of capital, how we look at low-cost loans, and what are the information gaps. But something that is very intrinsic to decarbonization is technology innovation. And so while we require the financial support for it, we definitely, it's important that the technologies are identified, evaluated, and scaled up. And we know that TIFAC has been doing some extremely good work in doing this gap assessment studies. So we wanted to understand that since TIFAC has worked with so many clusters, what are the kind of on-ground learnings with MSMEs when it comes to decarbonizing and the systems, and especially for some of those MSMEs which are still dependent on first generation technologies and are energy intensive or fossil fuel dependent. What are the kind of learnings that has been there from these gap assessment studies?
Thank you, Brenda, and good afternoon, all the panelists and the participants. So it's a good initiative. I congratulate you for organizing this kind of webinar and the discussion on a very pertinent topic. Those who are not very much aware about TIFAC, I just wanted to tell, like, it's an autonomous body under Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. And it's like we have been working for past around 30 years with various arms of government and with various departments of Government of India, private stakeholders on all the aspects of technology. While working towards this, to be specific, when we talk about this energy transition and net zero and all, just to tell you, like, we are also part of that Ministry of Environment and Forest Climate Change initiative on that BUR, preparation of BTR and the national communications, which really sets goal for our country for like how much we need to achieve in what time horizons. So even now, like we are preparing that biennial transmission report, that BTR second, which is to be submitted by MOEFCC to UNFCCC, and also on the fourth national communication. So when we are writing all these reports, at one end, we are actually getting ambitious towards like achieving more and more decarbonization, because we are all committed towards that. But at the same time, when we deal with MSME, that is a completely altogether a different portfolio where like we had been dealing with MSMEs also for past about 15 years. And in, I think from last, I think 2008 or so, when we started working, so far we have covered around 60 to 70 MSME clusters. So each cluster covering maybe around 50 to 100 industries. So more or less about 5,000 industries and different type of products we have covered. And what we have tried, what are their technology gaps? It's a basically now the focus is more on decarbonization and maybe energy efficiency. But primarily when we started, the main focus was because from that time itself, like we are finding they have a huge contribution in our employment generation, huge contribution in our GDP, but somehow like they are not organized, as like my previous speakers have also like pointed out all the time. So how to really mobilize them and how to find out what are their technological requirements, which probably they may or may not know, but how to really bring it to the in front of real stakeholders. So what we found, like we have covered the textile clusters, foundry clusters, sport goods, and then some surgical instruments, handicrafts, metal clusters, leather cluster, aquaculture. So everywhere, like more or less, when we talk about MSME, the kind of flavor which we are getting is the same, that they don't need very high-end technologies. Their requirements are mostly very basic, and I would not say like they don't need a technology. They really need a technology, but their problems are not, they are not aware about technology. They are aware about technology also, but they are slightly wary of adoption of technologies in their own industry. So honestly speaking, when we talk about the green technology, decarbonization, net zero, they are not very much interested into it because they are more worried about their day-to-day productions and their day-to-day problems, and like how to really basically have something through which they can feed to their families and feed to their basically employees. Maybe I would not blame them for that, but I would like to share one incident or one experience. Like at most of the time, we have to really pay them whenever we are organizing some capacity building programs. We have to really pay them for their half a day or 1 day's salary because they would be losing their remuneration for that day. And that capacity building, what we are doing, we don't really know like whether tomorrow he is going to use it or not. And by the time he get a chance to use it after 2 years or 3 years, I don't know how much useful it would be. So I may be sounding slightly negative, but because I thought here we have the people who are from finance side also, technology side also, and SIDBI is also there, and maybe in the participants there will be many MSMEs also. Just now, like what I am thinking, what the technological needs are there, technological needs, we are really capable of fulfilling, providing them the technologies. And as far as the technologies is concerned, I understand the vendors have a very important role, technology vendors, because if I take an example of say textile cluster of Tirupur in Tamil Nadu or Surat in Gujarat, and the textile cluster of like Varanasi or maybe Bihar, there is a lot of difference in technological levels and their practices, etc. So actually, and it's not that the people or the MSMEs in Bihar or this Varanasi, they are not aware of the latest technology. Rather, even West Bengal also we covered one cluster. So they are all aware of the technologies, but until it is demanded by their customers to go for decarbonization, probably the appreciation is slightly less because their current level of problems are different. Presently, they are like dealing with the labor issues. Presently, they are dealing with the marketing issues. Presently, they are dealing with the electricity comes and goes, and like these kind of things are there. Until they are really forced to get into the decarbonization things, they are well aware, yes, this particular machine is not energy efficient, and I need to replace these motors. The kind of what I say, the discharge I am like putting in effluents, it is actually not really worth putting it into the reverse, but still I am putting it because it is convenient for me. I don't want to invest for that. So these kind of things, like I know maybe we all are aware, but sometimes we are slightly hesitant to accept it. It's mostly lack of trust and probably the lack of kind of force or regulation on part of the government or the buyers from these MSMEs. Because our like in the initial introduction, when we talked about like 80% of the emission from any product, if we see, it is coming from scope 3 emissions. So for that scope 1, scope 2, if we talk about, they are all like within their campuses. They may or may not be using that much of energy, but the kind of the supply chains, which like the MSMEs are the major thing. So if our MSMEs are supplying to various big, like if we talk about the automobile, if we talk about the textiles, so they are all supplying to all big players. So they will have to really come forward to ensure like these MSMEs meet the requirements. Probably technologically, we are all competent, not MSME wise, but provided we provide them the right vendors of the technologies which are available in plenty in India. And the finance with also, like now we are seeing like lot of opportunities are available, even if we call it the green finance, if it is a low cost finance, it can be collateral free finance. So I actually many times do this kind of comparison, like we all need health insurance, but whenever we are meeting with some health insurance guys, we always see him with a lot of mistrust, like he want to just sell his policies and he will not tell me the exact truth where I would really get stuck up if I take this one. So my message to everyone is MSMEs are probably not interested in a project approach, because we all are interested into implementing our project. Maybe like we want to convert some 20 unit, we want to convert some 50 unit, we want to do certain measurements, and then we want to show like, yes, this technology is good. Probably they are more interested into insider approach because they consider all of us as an outsider. Some insider approach which can handhold them for a period of maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, may not be on a particular technology or a particular finance, but in all their problems. You can consider like a very rudimentary example is like in the health sector, you can consider the Anganwadi workers. So they are not really only looking at their nutritional requirement or their vaccination requirement. They are basically into their livelihood things also, and like everything they really need to consider. So that is what like some of the thoughts, though they are not really good in taste, but I thought because we have really mapped around 60 clusters. And if I see the reports of my 60 clusters, my recommendations which are emerging, they are more or less similar if it is related to energy or marketing or maybe the quality consistency, etc. So that is what like I wanted to share at the first instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh ji, with our tryst with the reality of how decarbonization is perceived with MSMEs, and how it's not like I fix up technology or I look at 20 clusters. I think it is more an ecosystem level approach, if I understand this, that's what you are pointing to. And Absolutely. I think we agree with some of this, but I would like to hear more from you as part of that. How do we, look at institutionalizing some of that? There are people in there are institutions which are there. How do we look at addressing some of them together? Because till today, there are different programs that look at cluster level programs and identifying and looking at technology shifts, doing capacity building and moving on. So what is the new change and the paradigm shift that we need to see when we look at MSMEs? I come back to you with that question in my second round. Next, I move to another interesting solution framing that we see from Ms. Swapna, who is from the SME Climate Hub. And this is a non-profit global initiative that empowers SMEs to take climate action. I think, Swapna, we have heard a lot about why decarbonization and what, but I think one thing goes for sure, that this is inevitable. Clean energy will happen today, tomorrow. It's just a question, it's a matter of time. And when it comes to small and medium units, climate opportunities should not only mean business for them. I think it's time that, at least I will try to keep the micro segment out here, but when we look at for these smaller and medium enterprises, how do we motivate them to pursue that? And since action begins from commitment, we would like to hear that what are the solutions that SME Climate Hub is offering, and how do you think that these tools like SME reporting is able to communicate that kind of business opportunities? And do we have any okay, that I'll put it as my next question. Please, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Rinda, and very good afternoon, all of you. I come from SME Climate Hub, which is a global level initiative of We Mean Business Coalition. And we have a very simple mission. We want to just help MSMEs take effective climate action. So for a very, very long time, corporate action and sustainability, climate action has been a part of corporate sustainability, and SMEs were not involved. But we wanted to ensure that they are not left out and they play a major role in this entire transition. So we wanted to bring on board SMEs in the climate action space, and that's how we came up with the SME Climate Hub. The idea is to help small businesses and provide them with tailored support. They have limited resources, they have limited bandwidth, they'll need tailored support so that they are able to take meaningful action. And so what SME Climate Hub does is we have a platform which provides all different kinds of climate action tools, which is created specifically for SMEs to help them understand what are the different steps they need to take so that they are able to achieve net zero. That is a basic thing. Now, when we talk about these tools, we have different types of tools, right? Starting from, how to measure your emissions, we have a carbon calculator, which can help them understand what are their scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, how to calculate their baseline. We have different kinds of courses, which is on, say, basic course on climate fit, which provides step-by-step approach to help smaller businesses to reduce their emissions. We have a reporting tool, as Rinda said, that is developed with a very simplified reporting framework so that SMEs are able to just initiate their climate action and they start reporting. They don't find it difficult. They don't find it they cannot be a part of this race. So we just want to encourage them to start with smaller actions and be a part of the whole space. So the reporting tool is also a very important way in which small businesses are able to disclose their actions publicly to key stakeholders they are working with. So be it customers, be it banks, be it other employees. So all these things are available. In terms of, there are also different kinds of action guides which are available on how to reduce your emissions from buildings, from transport. So different kinds of action guides and support material is available on the hub. Along with this, mostly it's sector agnostic, but we are also trying to become more sector specific. So we at present have resources on TV and entertainment sector, and we are building up with a food and beverage sector as well. So in general, what I'm trying to say is SMEs need handholding support, and we are trying to provide them with the required resources and tools which is required for them to start their action. But we want to build SME Climate Hub as a one-stop shop to start this transition. So we want to provide them with an opportunity where they are able to access these tools and resources. They are open source tools, but we also are providing them with an opportunity to make a climate commitment. And it's not only making the commitment, but also moving from commitment to action and accountability. So we have around 8,700 plus SMEs who have committed, saying that they want to halve their emissions by 2030. They want to achieve net zero by 2050. And they'll report their progress annually. And it's not only commitment, but it's also about tools. So we have 26,000 plus tool users as well. So interestingly, what the numbers I quoted are from global. From Indian context, we have around 324 Indian SMEs which have made the commitment. So all these SMEs automatically become a part of the United Nations Race to Zero initiative by making this commitment. So in general, this provides a one-stop shop, and India becomes a very priority geography. We have an India-specific page for an SME Climate Hub. We are providing India-specific content on it. We have 6 case studies talking about Indian SMEs on how they are taking climate action. We are trying to provide them hand-holding support on the ground as well. We are doing some workshops and webinars. Last year, we could reach more than 400 Indian SMEs. We also give them platforms to showcase their progress in a way that they can inspire others to initiate their action. And now in the coming year, we are planning to deep dive in our sectoral programs and pilot projects in India. So having said all this, but there's what we understand is all this should lead to meaningful business opportunities, right? And how do we motivate these SMEs? So the most important point here to understand is SMEs are extremely vulnerable to impacts of climate change. They have very local they have local staff, they have local customer base. Whenever there is a disaster, they shut down very easily. So it is very, very important that they understand the importance of taking climate action, and they are becoming a part of it. So we have heard in this panel that we are saying that SMEs are integral to climate action success. But rather, I would say, climate action is very, very critical for SMEs' long-term success. So if SMEs want to survive in the long term, climate action is extremely critical for them. And when we talk about the business case, I think I would put them in 4 different buckets. One bucket is on efficiency, where we talk about saving of resources and energy and materials. The second bucket, I will talk about risk management, where they are ready to face regulations. They are ready to do the required reporting. They are ready to take care of the risk that the climate change would have on them. That would be the risk management part of it. The third would be, in general, on growth prospects of that SME. So how an SME can make themselves look like a brand, a sustainable brand, a responsible brand in this market. How they can have a competitive advantage by taking climate action in terms of being a preferred supplier to any buyer, which also can mean that they would have more sales from a customer. So this would be the growth bucket. And the last bucket, when I talk about the business case, would be the access to capital. We have seen that many of these SMEs, as our colleague from SIDBI pointed, that they're building on, green is more finance. So there would be preferential rates for loans, which are given to SMEs who are taking good actions. We know that right actions lead to better financing options. So even taking the commitment itself gives you the possibility of being a better choice for the financial sector. So what I would say is, it's not about just doing the right thing, but taking climate action would be one of the only financially sustainable way for organizations to operate in the future.
Thank you. Now, I think this really takes us into the next level of discussion, where we have only 15 minutes left. But thank you for setting the vision and how we should go ahead forward, and how we look at the preferred buyer preferential rates as one of the models where you create that kind of top-down pressure that Mr. Mathur was also talking about. I think it still is in some aspects together. With this, what I'll try to do is, since we have limited time, I'll try to just give one pointer where to each one of you now, where you can just look at the vision or the next, how do we look at the next way forward for this. So Sarabjot, if I can come to you on this, we talked about the large information gaps. I think Dr. Rajendra Prasad also talked about, and in general, it persists both at the borrower side as well as the lender side. I think that is something, the harsh reality. How do you, think that we can bridge some of these gaps? Do we need to involve other set of stakeholders, or enable some of the other drivers that in terms of data, etc., that you think can mitigate some of this?
Right. I think, Vrinda, in my case, if you, ask me on the enabler side, I think one of the example I can cite from my recent project on, steel clusters. Therein, I hope, some of us maybe know about the CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism. So it is particularly coming for the steel sector, but presently it is for the bigger steel plant. We call it ISP, independent integrated steel plants. But in the future, like some SMEs that we worked with in this particular project, they are exporting some of the specialty steel components to Europe, and they are facing the difficulties due to the CBAM project, and they want to improve their energy efficiency side. They want to improve their their workforce social aspect side as well. So I think the combination of government policies as well as the enablers from our ecosystem can be a real driver for MSMEs. And like already pointed out by Mr. Mathur, we need not to delve into the big innovative technologies to be implemented by MSMEs. We should look out for the low hanging fruit first. There are very proven technologies available, that can be replicated across the cluster. Like for steel, we have many technologies, and in our particular project also, where we implemented technologies in 124 units, most of the technologies are proven technologies, and we just facilitated their application of those proven technologies in some of the units which they have not implemented. Yeah. So I think primarily these are policy like CBAM we can have for smaller unit as well, because we have the PAT scheme already for the bigger steel plants. But something of that sort for smaller MSMEs sector wise can also be considered. In addition to that, hand-holding support to MSMEs to comply with these kinds of regulations.
Thank you, Sarabjot. I next move on to Dr. Rajendra Prasad. I think Dr. Prasad, we heard about these programs, and something that I will again come back to is that workforce development and skilling while greening MSMEs is how important do you think that they will play? And when SIDBI is looking at designing or lending in some of these categories, does it given any kind of weightage?
See, as I stated in my earlier statement, when we talk about training or capacity building, we talk about the capacity building of entire value chain. It is not only MSMEs. What we have been doing for at least past 2.5 years is that we are also sensitizing lenders with the requirement of the clusters, with the requirement of MSMEs. That part is taken care. The other, which is more critical part of the entire discourse, is finance. So how the finance thing is made available, that is one area which is one of the biggest challenges as far as the sector is facing. Because what happens, most of the enterprises, they are very sensitive as far as pricing is concerned. So pricing part, we have tried to build a market within the MSME ecosystem, whereby we launch certain products, and these products we lend to MSMEs below our at times at the cost at which we were raising the funds. And in that process, we also created a kind of environment that other banks, other financial institutions, they also reduce the rates. So when it comes to, again, capacity building or training, you are saying, my vision of our organization's vision is slightly bigger, and it has created impact. If you see, and I'm giving you an example, if you want to compare, you can compare it, that about a year and a half back or 2 years back, the lending rate which SIDBI was offering in the range of 8 to 9%. At that point of time, commercial banks, they were offering loans at the rate of, and when I'm talking about loans, I'm talking about term loans. I'm not talking about working capital, because working capital is relatively costlier. So commercial banks, they were lending, they were giving term loans at the rate of 9.5, 10 or 11%. With our initiatives, the lenders, you call it competition, you call it market making, with that kind of sense of urgency which we infused into the system. So commercial banks, they are now also lending, at least for sustainability related investments, at the rate ranging between 8.5 to 9.5 or 10%. This is the major impact that I feel being a financial institution have created. That's it from my side.
No, thank you. I think it's very important that how we look at reducing the cost of capital and reduce rate of interest. I think that is very important, and I agree with you, Dr. Prasad. Moving on to so Tushar, I think one aspect that we talked about is that how Kinara has used digitalization as an important segment to do the credit underwriting, and as you also talked about, there are traditional lending systems, and how Kinara is innovating new lending practices which are more faster and easier. How do you think that this can be scaled up? Do you have any suggestions to the traditional lending ecosystem or any other players that needs to be looking at for driving this and scaling up this transition?
Yeah, I'd probably like to intervene at a broader level, and just in terms of, I think for those of us who've been around in financing for a while, you'll remember that renewable energy financing, even when project finance used to happen, there used to be a lot of hesitancy amongst normal banks to just fund even a wind power project or a solar power project. And at that time, we used incentives like feed-in tariffs, etc., to sort of incentivize lending institutions to fund. So there was a time when feed-in tariffs for solar and wind used to be like 4-5 times what used to be a merchant power tariff. And the plan then was that this is going to crash, because as more and more financing comes, as more and more renewable energy solar power plants get built, the ecosystem costs will reduce. And today you have a situation wherein you have parity or even lower prices of renewable projects. Now, MSME is something similar. It has to be incentive based, because you cannot put the onus of greening or alternative use of alternative energy on a small sort of micro entrepreneur. It has to be linked by way of a larger sort of ecosystem push, wherein there is a certain benefit, because these are very small organizations. They make like reasonably small revenues. So for them to take a big call on a equipment or for the larger thing, like Mr. Mathur was saying, like just sort of say that put the onus on them to sort of green things, probably is not the way, but we should incentivize as ecosystem players for them to move to these better technologies. So 2-3 things that I think can really encourage is that a much easier way to tag enterprises as green. For example, if we know that they have used a equipment that is baseline energy efficient, and they get something like a green mudra or something, that they have this particular equipment, it's potentially a green sort of organization, and hence green finance can get channelized. So something very simple to identify what is in a sustainable or an energy efficient entity. Second is this is so if you think MSME financing is risky, green MSME probably is at par or probably more. So then you need to sort of have protection for lenders who are already underwriting here. For example, guarantee schemes, partial guarantee schemes. So we have those, central government guarantee schemes, etc. Probably increase the scale or expand the scale to sort of add specifically green end use to this, so that lenders are willing to take the risk have stop protection at some sort of level so that they can expand access to this particular entity. So that's an availability angle. In terms of access, so there are a lot of NBFCs, a lot of institutions, a lot of fintechs who probably there, and I can tell you the opportunity to finance in India is going to be huge, and you can access these customers. So probably there can be easier takeout financing from larger government organizations. For example, if we have created already a green portfolio, there should be frequent issuances of green bond that can securitize lending that we've already done, which we can then securitize out at a lower cost of capital and churn our own capital and provide it to more green finance businesses. So that's more sort of a availability and access issue. And the third thing is very simply cost. I mean, we have to green finance should have at least till these technologies become on par or are at the same cost or something like that, be a lower cost financing. Because I can tell you that the end user knows the advantage. For a farmer who's not grid connected, they know the importance of a solar water pump. Like, because that is the difference between having a second or a third crop and not having a second or a third crop. But they don't have the money to basically buy it probably, right? So effectively, if we can underwrite these at a lower cost, provide multiple option, give these lenders some backstops and create like a larger ecosystem, that's the way uptake can happen. Of course, digital always helps because it helps easier verification of the borrower by way of KYC and using the sort of Jam Trinity to sort of lend into their bank accounts, to know who's your end borrower, to sort of check the utilization. So you can use digital tools to do all that, but that's for all types of financing. But largely with green, we need to think about an ecosystem incentivizing type of structure. That's it from my side.
Great, great. Thank you, Tushar, for highlighting, how a larger ecosystem, needs to be built for addressing some of this. Mukeshji, I think I would just try to ask you this one question: that what is, based on the extreme, this plethora of experience that you have in this, what is your wish list for MSMEs and decarbonization? And one in specific, I would just like that, how do we really address this behavioral challenge that you identified? How do we, really go about all of that?
As the crux of what like we had been discussing and I told you earlier, what is required more is a kind of insider approach, and may not be the technology or may not be the finance or something. It's basically what is required is a kind of we at one end we sensitize them towards the future requirements which are coming up, because if they don't go for the decarbonization or if they don't move towards net zero, definitely they are going to be out of business. India as a whole, because there are a lot of other options available now if we see at a global level. So we have to really show them the future, like it's really inevitable and they will have to go for that. And along with that, maybe a kind of some brand ambassadors, if we can create within the clusters, maybe some 2, 3, 4 the local industries, if we can sensitize them who are reasonably well educated and they have greater exposure. So maybe they can start doing it in their industries, and maybe they can really talk to the other people and other cluster, like other units of the cluster. Like a very small, like one example of that Tirupur textile cluster I would like to give. When we approached them in 2012, They were in a very bad shape, and the Tamil Nadu government like stopped their all units because they were putting their effluents into the rivers and all. And then with the base on the basis of some technology the based on the kind of hand holding which was provided, they not only came out of that immediate crisis, but at that time when they were exporting, I think around some 30 to 40,000, no, around 10,000 crore. Now they have like for past 10 years or 12 years of association, they have their export has reached around 80,000 crore to 90,000 crore. So it was because of, I would like to see, it was a continuous hand holding, and there 2 to 3 really we had a brand ambassador there. They themselves have invested a lot into green energy. And like I can just share here, they what they claim is ki as against the 250 megawatt energy consumed by them, they have invested around 1800 megawatt into the wind energy, around 250 megawatt into the solar energy. So they are kind of already net zero and a kind of net, they are having like the surplus of energy. So such kind of models we can really have, and which would involve number one, awareness creation, number two, capacity building, and a kind of complete ecosystem which can provide them technology, finance, marketing, regulatory compliances, etc.
Okay. Do you just one last intervention here? Do you think that data aggregation and understanding on cluster specific studies would also help bringing in the realities and getting more local and to understand and doing those kind of studies in the public domain would also help?
Yeah, data aggregation is anyway our requirement under our that BTR and these kind of reports, biennial reports which we are submitting. So government is already aggregating data from all the not only MSMEs and like the large scale sectors. So we can really highlight them if it comes to a particular cluster, maybe Surat or maybe somewhere in Bihar or somewhere. We can tell them ki this much is the data which is like from your particular cluster. And then because the individual unit, they may not really get appreciated by, they not appreciate like how much is their contribution and how much they would be saving. But yes, obviously data collection but that is itself is a big task, and we really need to invest into that also. And through that we can really sensitize them and bring them together towards like becoming more acceptable to the kind of solutions which are being suggested.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mukesh ji. I think, Swapna, since we're already overshot the time, just in 1 or 2 minutes, if you can give us any learnings that you have it from Indian MSMEs based on the hub's work and looking at their transitional journeys. Any quick 2 points that you would like to mention?
Sure. And in terms of learning, I think, Vrinda, our learnings are similar. We have an SME survey which is done every year, and it aligns with what rest of the panelists say, that SMEs need handholding support. They need additional. Our survey says that 80% of SMEs want to take climate action, but they need support. When we talk of support, they need support in terms of climate resources. They need support in terms of tools for action, financial support, regulatory services, even support from their investors and customers. So that's the hand-holding support they need. But in general, we are trying to do that through SME Climate Hub. Our experience is now talking when I say, and our SMEs have, different geographies, different countries have different diverse backgrounds in terms of policy, environment, technology, availability. So when we talk about UK, our presence in UK, we have more than 5,400 SMEs who have signed the commitment. And this is because the government made it, the government backed SME Climate Hub's commitment when UK hosted COP26. So they gave the entire momentum to create the net zero impact for SMEs when there was COP26. So that's how we have majority. So that's an example where we see that how government regulations can drive climate action among SMEs. But in other geographies, for example, in Latin America, we see similar case, or we have a similar experience as in India, where we understand that they need very much hand-holding support in terms of the climate action that they want to take. But having said that, SMEs who have already made the commitment and are trying to take initial actions and started reporting, they have definitely started saying that now they're able to meet the requirements of the UK and US international legislations. They are able to retain their access to export market. They are saying that they are listed as preferred suppliers for global companies who have stringent ESG norms. There are so many who are also thinking about SBTI and Race to Zero standards are there, which are making SMEs, have lucrative contracts in their names just because they are being a part of these initiatives. And SME Climate Hub is a part of Race to Zero initiative as well. So, and when we talk about the India level, we have the BRSR reporting, and that's exactly where SMEs and the supply chain also need to be a part of the BRSR reporting, and they need to initiate that action. So we know the business case exists. We want to create that environment where SMEs start believing that, yes, there is something for me when I talk about climate action. And we want to ensure that they say that this business case is strong enough for me to take that action. So we know there are multinationals setting targets. There are nations who have net zero goals. We want to ensure that SMEs come to a position where they say, I am with you, count me into this net zero journey. That's what I'll say.
So just one thing, if the panelists are okay, there are 2 hands up in the attendees. We didn't register it before. Is that if the panelists have like 5 minutes of time, can we get the attendees to ask their questions?
Yep.
Okay.
Can we start with Mr. Om Prakash Taneja? Yeah. You might have to unmute yourself, Mr. Taneja. Or otherwise, if Mr. Jain, Sanjeev Jain is ready, we can have Sanjeev Jain. Are they not able to unmute themselves? No, they can, right? Yeah, Sanjeev Jain, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was in this field since last 40 years as a part of my activity in Chhattisgarh. We have done the cluster mapping of the rolling mill sectors. And we have implemented several programs of Bureau of Energy Efficiency in the MSMEs in Chhattisgarh. And our strategy was that during the cluster mapping that these MSMEs are not aware about the technology, what is to be implemented. And the capacity building is has already been discussed by all panelists. There are some issues with the MSMEs that they are not able to diagnose, recognize where are the problems. So what we observed that the walkthrough audit is must. How to start in industries. Like I would like to give an example of their electricity bill. During the energy audit or walkthrough audit, what we observed that the most of the units were paying the power factor penalty. They are not aware about how to reduce the power factor, how to maintain the power factor, and how to get the incentives. Most of industries were paying the demand penalties, because their contract demand was somewhere, suppose 100 kVA, the demand exceeds. When the demand exceeds, the distribution company charges very heavy charges as a demand penalty also, and the tariff charges also. So they are not aware about how to maintain their electricity consumptions. They are using the entire old motors, the rewinded motors, pumps. So simply this replacement of the old existing pumps with the energy star rated pumps or compressor or motor, this gives a huge results. And climate is definitely an issue, and the health is also an issue. But in spite of climate and other factors, these are some factors is a low hanging fruit for them to attract the MSME sectors to implement the energy efficiency in their industries. Thank you very much from my side.
Yeah. Okay. So Yeah, I was just asking, trying to understand the question. If you can put it for the panelists, कि आपका सवाल क्या है?
नहीं, सवाल यह है मैडम, क्योंकि एमएसएमई में वी आर टॉकिंग लॉट अबाउट द decarbonization strategies for the large industries. We are already implementing PET. For the small industries, other issues are more serious for the energy, for the efficiency improvement. This is my question from panelist.
Okay. Vrinda, I am on line now. Can I come?
Yes, please, Mr. Taneja. I think we'll just take the questions and maybe the panelists then can take responses.
Vrinda ji, I would like to react to Mr. Jain's observation first.
Oh, please, sir.
Yeah. So, at least on the first part of his observation, that industries is not aware what to do. To facilitate industries understand, we have created certain infrastructure. And at the same time, we have created a pool of technologies. It's a list of 891 technologies for energy efficiency and 118 technologies for circular economy. These technologies have been, TIFAC is our technical partner here. They have weighted these technologies, at least 891 technologies they have weighted, and they have confirmed that these are basically energy efficient technologies. This list of technology is part of one of the Government of India schemes, which is called GIFT. And it is available on a website of msme.gov.in. So yes, that part is available as far as which are the investments where energy efficiency is ensured. At the same time, we have gone one step further and we have identified for circular economy related investments also. So yeah, at least that part we have tried to address. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad. Mr. Taneja, over to you, please. And if you can just introduce about like one line for your organization.
See, I'm an independent consultant, an independent person nowadays. Earlier, I was with Wind Turbine Manufacturers Association and has been in power sector for the last 45 years or so. See, Mr. Tushar and Mr. Mukesh has already tested two things about wind power sector. Where the net zero is already there, decarbonization is also, which is the need of hour, it's there. Now the green finance is available. These are the positive things, but the only problem is that this MSME sector of wind power is not in a position to come up, because from 2017 onwards, when the bidding started, the MSME sector is not able to participate, in spite of the fact that MNRE has also given most of the, they have given advisory to states, but it is not coming up. I think Mr. Tushar rightly said that it was because of incentives and all. Wind sector and private MSME was there. So around 40% of this investment was from the MSME or individual sector. Now my question is, how to regenerate this sector for MSME, where we can have another just of say around 1500 to 1600 megawatt of investment in 8 states of the country of wind power. That is my question. If any of the panelists can give me some solutions or something, so that can be taken up further. Even Vasudha Foundation will also be taken it up further. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Taneja, can you frame your question a little clearly? I think, what is the ask that how do we, can you just make it a little more clear for the panelists?
See, as I told you that till 2017, it was the investment of MSME sector was around 40% in the wind power. Now that has gone to nil as for the time being because of the bidding sector now. Now there are possibilities of regenerating this wind sector without giving any incentives to investors, but maybe some incentive may be given to the distribution companies. That is there. But how we should go ahead with making it possible to investment by the MSME sector, say for around 1500 to 1600 megawatt per year.
Shini, you were saying something?
No.
Yeah, I can answer this question when we are when I do the wrap up.
Does any of the panelists want to take that question? Otherwise, Mr. Taneja, I think we can, maybe Shini can take up when he's answering.
Maybe Vrinda, on the comment shared by Mr. Sanjeev Jain on unawareness of the unit owners on various aspects. I think the important player also we need to see here is the industry association. The connections of these small entities, small MSMEs need to be there with their industry association. They organize various camps with electricity departments, with other CPCB, that pollution board also, to make their members aware. So it is really important for the MSMEs to get connected to their regional stakeholders, and most importantly the association, industry association.
Great, thank you. One last question from Mr. Pulkit, and we close after that. No more questions after. Yes, Pulkit, Mr. Pulkit, over to you quickly, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brinda. And it is great to understand about the sustainable financial mechanism from the policy experts and industry experts. I am from GIZ. I am working as energy advisor. Particularly, I am just working for this enhancement of livelihood mission and all. So just my question is that pertaining to scalability of these intervention and the decarbonization of MSME, how do you see the provision of open access for such small industries which are obviated by DISCOMs, particularly distribution entities, through cross-subsidy surcharge? So in order to retain them and to just, as the Electricity Amendment Act 2022 also highlights that the consumption above the 100 megawatt, these type of consumers should move towards the green energy. So how the utility scale solar or utility scale renewable energy could facilitate such small scale industries? Just hello.
Yeah, we heard you. I think this is a very important point where, large scale industries and the small scale industries discussion, I think that has been a miss. But yes, if any of the panelists would want to, touch upon that, how, large scale industries and like a utility scale solar can look at providing more support to some of these distributed renewable energy and these players, how, any comments on that from the panelists?
Maybe I can, Brinda, share one case studies, and again from the steel sector, where we worked with some of the units in the Raipur cluster. There are some big units as well in Raipur, and there are some medium units as well and small units as well. So we come across some of the small units who have invested in the renewable energy plants, particularly the solar PV plant outside their premises, because inside the MSME premises they don't have that much of space to have a megawatt capacity, or even megawatt capacity plants in their premises. So they invested in 2 megawatt plant outside the Raipur city, and they are getting that electricity to their plant, and provide and giving the wheeling charges to their DISCOMs, and they are using that electricity because that particular plant is the composite plant, having the re-rolling mill as well as the induction furnace as well. So there are almost 6-7 plants that we come across in the Raipur region. They are trying to adopt this kind of model as well, as far as the solar PV plants or renewable energy plants are concerned.
And I think
yeah, hello.
I'm sorry, Pulkit,
Yes, yes.
but I think our panelists is there. If please keep your question short.
Just very quick question to Mr. Sarabjit, as he is working for UNDP. So just pertaining to this latest insight from COP29, how do you see the scope of carbon financing for these SMEs, particularly for enhancing their attractiveness? Because as we know that this carbon financing is now, carbon market is just transforming towards the compliance based rather than a voluntary nature. So could you please just throw some light over this that how carbon financing can come into the light in just
Right. I think, Pulkit, this carbon financing, or if you talk about the carbon credit scheme of India itself, that is, the recently launched, and, the guidelines are already being prepared. But I think to start with, I think the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is, kind of applying these compliances on the large industry first. And I think, of course, these kinds of compliances can be, applied to the small industry as well. But that approach we really need to analyze and assess very carefully after before applying to the MSME sector, because for these kinds of compliances you need very authenticate data. And if we talk about the MSME sector in India, there is a lack of data as far as the energy consumption and other parameters are concerned. So I think a very detailed and comprehensive exercise is needed as far as applying these kinds of compliances on the MSME sector.
Thank you so much.
Sarabjot, this is very helpful. And just to one more thing, I think, Pulkit, I wanted to raise that while you talked about open access, I think right now a lot of MSMEs that we are talking are still not electrified. So that aspect of procuring it open access, and while it's available for all connected MSMEs or industries connected above 100 kilowatt, and they can procure green power. But I think we have to first take that bigger leap of electrifying as one big opportunity that is also there as a first lever of decarbonization. With this, I think I just want to thank everybody. It has been just stellar, and I would like to just Srini give closing remarks and share his thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brinda. Before I give my closing comments, I just start with your permission, Brinda. I would like to just respond to both Pulkit and Mr. Taneja's question. Mr. Taneja, I think you make a very important point, but we also work very closely with the wind associations, the Indian Wind Turbine Manufacturers Association, INVIA, GWEC, and others. And I know that they're taking up this issue of MSMEs losing out of this and are trying to make the case. But the point that I think Sarabjot also said, the work that amongst the various work that we're doing, the work that Brinda is leading is also on the energy transition and the deep electrification. We're also working with the Surat textile cluster to see if they can shift from the coal-fired boilers to electric boilers. And we're also looking at the possibilities of MSMEs setting up their own power generation and evacuation. So we're looking at not huge quantities or huge installed capacity. We're looking at, say, 2 megawatt, 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt kind of installed capacity. So we're exploring those options to see how it can be done. But having said that, I would like to thank all the panelists and, of course, the participants for the very rich insights and perspectives. For me personally, it was a very enriching session, and I could not have asked for more. I don't really want to summarize, as all the perspectives made were extremely well articulated. But in terms of what we will take home for our next steps and way forward are very clearly micro, small, and medium enterprises are a vital part of India's economy, contributing to our GDP, exports, employment, and the list is endless. There is a huge opportunity for MSME to embark on a transition pathway. And in fact, they would need to do so given the domestic and global regulatory and policy environment. There were examples such as CBAM was given, and going beyond CBAM, and particularly with various decisions likely to come in the forthcoming climate meetings at the umbrella of UNFCCC. There could be hard call for MSMEs to also shift, with hard targets for transition. But clearly, having said that, while there's an opportunity, there are also need handholding support in multiple ways. And that was also very clearly articulated by the panelists, from regulatory support to finance to technology and technology access and so on and so forth. On the finance bit, it was very clear that the finance needs to be a tailored approach, depending on the sector, geography, and so on and so forth, and also access to technology at affordable cost. Then there was this huge question of awareness and capacity building. And this awareness ranging from financial mechanisms and schemes. The gentleman from SIDBI and TIFAC did point out to the various initiatives taken by the government of India on the example he gave, or list of available technologies, etc. But is there a way to ensure a broad outreach to the MSME community on these initiatives? Is there a way that we can reach out to them? Is there a way that we can simplify some of the communication? It's just a question, but I'm sure there are a lot of work that's being done on that front too. But again, very clearly, awareness and capacity building was one issue that was raised. And I would say that on the awareness, I would not just restrict it to the MSME, but also the wider value chain. That would include the banking and finance communities, their supply chain, etc. I still remember an incident that while people in Bombay, the financial headquarters, would know of schemes and programs and what need to be done, at the end of the at the branch level, a lot of managers are not aware of these schemes or programs. So how do you ensure that these programs percolate down to the lowest level of the banking value chain or the infrastructure? One issue that is also vital is to ensure all efforts are made to create an enabling environment for MSMEs to transition to greener processes, etc. You should also ensure safety nets for the current workforce to also move with the transition and not lose out. I think that's important because, yeah, you can support the MSME with access to technology, finance, etc. to shift. But if they are also not able to move the workforce also along with their change, then it may not actually meet the whole just transition or people-centric transition sort of rubric. We work in multiple states. As I said earlier, we work in multiple states with multiple departments and also at multiple levels of subnational administrative divisions like the districts, cities, etc. And very often we also work with the MSMEs. And one thing that we will definitely try as part of work is to see as to how and where the communication awareness building can actually fit into all our programs. In terms of the way forward, Brinda, I presume that we will circulate a brief minutes or the capturing the essence of today's meetings. And then what we would also do is that in terms of next steps, we will articulate what are the key areas that action needs to be taken and where we would like to partner with each one of you, in taking this forward. With that, once again, thank you all for your rich insights and perspectives. This was indeed very enriching. And I also would like to thank all the participants for staying with us almost half an hour over the time, but thank you very much. Thank you very much.